my name is Neha and I'm a member of the Teen Advisory Board here at Howard County Library System. And today I will be going over an introduction to trigonometry. So an overview of what we will be doing. First, we will go over a formal definition of trigonometry. Then, we will go over some key concepts, do some practice problems, and finally end with a review. So what is trigonometry? Trigonometry is the study of relationships between side lengths and side angles of right triangles. It is very important to realize that trigonometry will only work with right triangles. Trigonometry is also used all throughout geometry, pre-calculus, calculus, and all upper-level math, so this concept is very important to understand. Take a look at these triangles below. Notice that they are all right triangles, and that is signified by the perpendicular lines and the 90-degree symbol in the corner. Let's go into some key concepts. We can start off with vocabulary. Here are 3 words you will see throughout the unit: opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Opposite is the side across from a given angle, as shown in this picture. Adjacent is the side next to a given angle, but not the hypotenuse, as shown here. Hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle, as shown in the picture below. Some more words you will see throughout this unit are sine, cosine, and tangent. These words signify major calculations that you will be doing. Sine is abbreviated as SIN and is equal to the opposite over hypotenuse value of any right triangle. Cosine is abbreviated as COS and is equal to the adjacent over hypotenuse value. Tangent is abbreviated as TAN and is equal to the opposite over adjacent value of a right triangle. Keep in mind that these are all right triangles. Now, these trig ratios might seem daunting or hard to remember, but we have a simple acronym that we will be using, SOHCAHTOA. Let's break it down. The SOH is in relation to sine. The O means opposite and the H means hypotenuse. Putting this together, we see that sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Next, we have CAH. The C stands for cosine, the A stands for adjacent, and the H stands for hypotenuse. Putting this together, we see that cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Last, we have TOA. T is equal to tangent, O is equal to opposite, and A is equal to adjacent. Putting this together, we see that tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent. This acronym makes it very easy to identify your trig ratios. Let's do some practice problems. This problem reads, given the triangle on the right, solve for all trig ratios. When they say trig ratios, they mean sine, cosine, and tangent. So first, let's identify our values. We see that our opposite value of the angle is 5, our adjacent value of the angle is 12, and the hypotenuse length of the triangle is 13. Now let's set up our trig ratios. Keep in mind the ratios we identified earlier. Since we have identified those values, we can just substitute them right in. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent. Now your teacher may ask you to simplify further or write them as a decimal, and you should do what your teacher says. But for this problem, we will simplify them to be decimals. So sine is equal to 0.38, cosine is equal to 0.92, and tangent is equal to 0.42. This problem was fairly easy, and it just built upon concepts we learned earlier. Let's do a slightly harder one. Problem number 2. How tall is the tree in the given right triangle? Notice that the tree is our opposite value. It is opposite the 45-degree angle. So to start off this problem, let's identify our values. Since we know the tree is our opposite value, we can call it x, the height of the tree. Our adjacent value does not exist, and that's completely fine. And we are given our hypotenuse value, which is 20 meters. let's set up a trig ratio. But before we do so, it's important to figure out which trig ratio to use. Since we do not have an adjacent value, we cannot use cosine or tangent because those two ratios involve an adjacent value. The only ratio left is sine, and that makes sense because we are trying to find an opposite value and we are given our hypotenuse. So we know that sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, and since we are given our angle, we can substitute that in. So we know that sine of 45 is equal to opposite, we can leave that as it is, over 20, which is our hypotenuse. Now, the next step is to get opposite to be by itself. But how would we do that? That's fairly simple. We just multiply both sides by 20. And by doing so, we get that our answer is 14.14 meters. But wait, what is that answer in relation to the problem? Remember that when we are solving word problems, we should always write our answers as a complete sentence. So, the correct answer to this problem as a complete answer would be that the tree is approximately 14.14 meters tall. This problem just asked you to interpret the ratios we learned earlier. Let's do a quick review. Remember the vocabulary that we identified: hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. These words will pop up all throughout the unit, and you should have a solid understanding of these definitions. And do remember our trig ratios and the SOHCAHTOA acronym. This acronym will save you a lot of time in math class and help you understand the trig ratios. I hope this video helped you learn or reinforce some new concepts. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!